Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 768. I'm 𝒕𝒑𝒑, your host, sitting on the porch today recording the Software Process and Measurement Cast 768 features our interview with Phil Alves, CEO of DevSquad. Phil and I covered a wide range of topics, starting with how he structures teams to perform in dynamic environments and culminating in a discussion of SaaS and entrepreneurship. Software development of any stripe is a team sport. Either get it right or suffer the consequences. Phil describes himself as a SaaS aficionado. He builds products for bootstrap founders, fast-growing startups, and big enterprises at DevSquad. His SaaS company, DevStats, helps product and engineering leaders measure what matters. Phil is also a podcaster. The SaaS Origin Stories Podcast uncovers those pivotal moments and decisions that turn SaaS companies into major successes. Are you ready to talk teams, SaaS, and entrepreneurship? It's time for the interview. Phil Alves, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Phil, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. It's always interesting to talk to people, especially people that actually have, run businesses. The whole idea of teams in organizations today are pretty important. In a dynamic environment, in the world that we build software, I guess you could do it as an individual, right? Somebody could be that hardy individual, build whole applications in their own right. But in real world, right, in the business that we're in, software development is a team sport. How do you get good teams?
Yeah, I think it starts the foundation for having good teams, in my opinion, is at the culture level, right? So you have to develop a culture where people enjoy to work with each other, where they're not afraid of bringing up problems, especially in software. When we have a culture where someone's going to hide a problem because when they brought it up, like the messenger got shot instead of...
I still remember that, yeah.
So I believe the foundation to build a great development teams, it is always going to be a healthy culture, a culture that cares about quality of the code, but also if you're specifically trying to build a product and take the product to market, I like to call my engineers product engineers and not software engineers. Because when I make that small change, we talk about what can we do to actually get this product to market, not how can I make this query half a second faster, So, but that's what I believe. It is the foundation, this culture. From there, we can do things, the right flows, the right rituals, the right tools to be able to track how they're doing and to see the bottlenecks and to improve. But none of that's possible if you don't have that foundation of a culture of improvement, of a culture where people are trying to be better and are trying to understand like how they can keep improving and get to high performing. Like any development team is going to go to, or any team for the matter, is going to go to those well-known staging of the forming, norming, storming, and performing. And are in those stages is that you're going to build a strong culture that's going to allow the team to stay in the performing and keep getting better.
The whole idea of calling people product engineers versus software engineers, or product developers versus software developers. How did you decide that? How did that come to mind? Because on the surface of it, you look at it and I'm sitting here going, "Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've never done that." How did you get to that point?
Yeah, I think it was like the way that the person see themselves and the problem that they are put in place to solve is going to differentiate how they act and what they find value, And so, and depends also in which scenario you are. But when you think as a software engineer, I think that's a person that can code, that can solve very complex problems, and that's all great. But if I'm trying to take like what the where we work, the sphere that we work, we build SaaS products, we take SaaS products to market. At that stage, I want them to be thinking more about their product than about their code. I want to be a partner with their product manager, with their other stakeholders, to think about their product and like, how can I build a product the faster that we can? Because building software is about trade-offs, right? You're going to always have to make trade-offs. And if you like them see themselves as like the protector of the software and like always the best thing to do, and that's that push and pull of product going one direction and software engineers going another direction. I want them to go the same direction with different knowledge. Like, how can we get business, engineers, designers all to collaborate in the same direction? And I believe that if we can make it, we are all part of the same team. You are the product engineer, you are the product manager, you are the product designer, you are the product testers. And that makes it so everyone goes back and say, okay, our goal is to get a product and to build a product that solves real problems for people.
If teams are so important, do we have big teams or little team? If we're solving a big problem, let's 100-person team, right? That would be crazy. And I know that. But the whole idea of, and I think we've probably both seen this, right? And you come in to help an organization with building and helping them take a SaaS product to market. And they've got a 40-person team and calling it a team working on it. Big project, big team, big project, lots of small teams.
Yeah, definitely option B. I believe a team should not be bigger than you should be able to feed your team with 2 pizzas.
The classic 2 pizzas.
Yeah. The classic 2 pizzas. But also like small teams are just so much more productive because there's no place to hide. Everyone is important. Everyone is trying to get things done. And I'm always surprised to see companies like Skype was built with a team of 3 developers. They got sold, and then they tried to rewrite with hundreds of developers and got worse.
Yeah, I miss the old Skype.
I'm not sure now if it was Instagram or Pinterest. Was 13 people on their team. So when you have a team that's small, but they can really work well together, I think they can be more successful. So in my company, we are running at any point 25 to 30 products. That's how many products we are building, but every team is 4 to 6 developers. So we try to keep those teams small so they can move faster. And many times we are going against teams that have like 40, 50, 60, 80 developers on one team, like we discussed, and they move much slower than our small, well-defined team,
How did you discover that, right? So I've studied team design. We go back to the Agile. You could get all sorts of discussions about 5 to 9 and whether it's 15 if you're doing extreme and things like that. But in the real world, in doing business with small teams, how did you come to the conclusion that was actually financially sound and made sense in the marketplace?
Yeah, I believe there's like you, I study a lot and we read all the theory behind. But at the end of the day, most of the products I build, it's for bootstrap companies that have less resources. And that was our only option. And then when we see that we're actually beating the guys that raise hundreds of millions of dollars with a small team, we start to be like, yeah, the theory that we read about in the books were right. We're more efficient. We can do more with a smaller team.
People listen, so you've just informed your competition, but they obviously don't probably couple cultures. So when you're creating a team, how do you take your organization's culture and actually help the team have that culture? Especially if you were spinning up a new team.
It's having the priority on culture. It's being willing to get a person that it doesn't fit the culture and let the person go, even if they're like a very talented engineer. Because your culture is only as strong. There's what you say your culture is, and that's what your culture actually is. True. And for example, I have an example where like we don't accept stakeholders or whoever to be unreasonable and to be mean to our team members or to do whatever in that scenario. And then we had a very big customer, and we had a very big problem where they were kind of not acting the way that we thought was okay. And then it was at that point, I had to make a decision. I was like, I have to go and I have to tell this customer, you have to stop or you're fired. Because if I don't, the culture would change, because it would be a culture where we don't protect our team members, where it's okay to act a certain way if you are big enough. So like, I think there's defining moments in every culture where you have to make hard decisions, where you have to decide, this is not how we serve, or this is how we do stuff. And because culture it's the way their things are done. It's not what we put in the wall. So that's how we do it. And I feel like there's always going to be defining moments of culture, and your culture is going to keep changing.
So what are some of the context pieces? So obviously, in the world of product development that you're in, one team probably is structured slightly different from another. What do you look at to determine how to structure a team to make it effective?
I believe actually our teams are very similar, because we are trying to bring the problem that we solve is we build B2B SaaS products, and we build products where we can take the technology risk to zero, because we see there's 3 risks to build any new product. Technology risk, can it be built? Market risk, will people buy this? And selling risk, can we actually sell? Maybe there's a big market, but we cannot sell. And our goal is to remove the technology risk 100%. And we believe that when you think about B2B SaaS product, it's not rocket science. It's very similar. It's more about the knowledge of the industry, of the visionary, than it is about the technology. So if you actually are good and know how to build software and have the right structures in place, you kind of need the same team over and over again to solve that specific kind of problem. So now when the problem is different and when there is a risk in technology, we just, again, go back to not taking that one customer, because that's not all we solve. We solve taking our technology risk to zero, and the team is going to always be 4 to 6 developers, a product manager, and a product designer and QA. So that's always, and if we believe we cannot solve whatever or build whatever B2B SaaS product with that team, we just don't take that customer, because there's no way for me to be expert in everything. There's no way for me to be good at everything. So there's a certain technologies, a certain way of working that we're really good at, and that we work for 80% of the people that come to us. The other 20% that doesn't work, we just have to be upfront with them and say, you might need a different structure than what we offer. And that's because I'm trying to scale in a consulting firm, right? So a consulting firm that solves similar problems for similar companies. So that's kind of like how it goes.
I see the approach, and I think, that is a very astute. I mean, you've founded a number of firms at this point, right? Is that something that you discovered, or is that something that you knew immediately in terms of, hey, you can't be something to everybody?
Oh, no, yeah, I definitely had to make a bunch of mistakes to learn that. And I had to learn my lesson over and over again. I'm like, oh, I already knew this lesson. So like definitely a lot of mistakes and realizing that, oh, you're trying to serve the wrong customer again. And then it's hard for us, it's hard for them. No one is happy. And then there's a message that we see too through our own products that we build. Like maybe someone built a product for an X kind of person, and then that's a Y trying to use it. And they're like, oh, they're big, let's have them use it. And now like they're moving the backlog a whole different direction because you onboard a customer that wasn't the customer you were trying to serve in the first place. And maybe that's an amazing pivot, because now the customer and the industry is a lot bigger. So it might be times that work. But yeah, long story short, I learned by making a bunch of mistakes.
And I'm with you. I understand that making mistakes is good, assuming that you learn from them. I've unfortunately run into folks that make the same mistake over and over and over and over again. Not real sure they're learning, because they're going to do it again. You could see it coming. In our industry, if you aren't always learning and learning new things, extending, you're probably going to be passed by. For those of you, since this is audio, people might not know that my hair's gray. I've been at this a little while. I remember when people wrote in COBOL. Not that the people up in Detroit still don't, and there are a lot of people who do. That still happens, but there were lots of people doing that. They're not doing that anymore as much. The world changes. How does your company, the whole idea, the DevSquad idea, how does that then take on the next big? What are you doing so that when the next wave comes through, you can be there and be able to help your customers take that technical risk to zero?
Yeah, it's funny because you talk about the word change and being in the market for a long time. What I noticed too, that we keep learning the same lesson over and over again. For example, for the last few years, I have been telling all my customers, we're not going to build this using microservices. It's a very complex architecture that big companies use. We don't use that. That's not going to allow you to move quicker. That's not going to allow you to move with a small team. That was a technology that was built to scale teams, like the size of teams, not to build like scalable products, because there's a lot of very big products that are monolithic, like Shopify, GitHub, and so on. And for the many years, people call me crazy, right? Why are we sticking with monolithic applications? And like this year comes, and now companies have a hard time raising money, and they need to do stuff with less. And just 2 weeks ago, Amazon come out and say, hey, we're actually moving this thing from a microservices to monolithic because we need to save money and because we realized that was a mistake. And then there's a lot of articles about people saying that was a mistake. I think in tech, we're always going after the newest shiny object and trying to solve a problem that was already solved. And then we get ourselves in a problem that we already knew. And then when we get people that have been in the industry for longer, like you and I, we're like, oh, yeah, here we go again. We're learning the same lesson over and over again. So I believe actually there's very little innovation in tech. They're learning the same shit over and over and over and over again.
I don't know that I actually have thought about it that way, but it is the same lesson. It really boils down to flow, right? You want to be able to get stuff to market without it sitting around, in chunks, and actually deliver value faster. Well, let's pick on DevSquad. That's a boutique consultancy. You're not for everyone. You've suggested that you don't take clients if they don't fit within what you do well. Makes sense. What actually makes a boutique consultancy like you stand out?
Yeah, I think what makes us stand out is that we work with our customers on the strategy level. We help them. We actually care about their success. And there's not a lot of companies that do that. There's a lot of what I call glorified staffing agents. So they give you people, but they don't give you a strategy. They don't give you a team. They don't think about how you're going to get a product to market. They don't understand the things they were talking about in here today. They don't understand how to organize a team and how to build a culture and how to simplify. So most of firms that compete with DevSquad are actually just glorified staffing agencies. They're not consulting firms that can help you take a product to market. I would argue there's actually very, very few companies out there that can do that. They can take a product end to end and take them to market. And most of those are actually big, expensive consulting firms. So when we are here in the middle as a smaller boutique firm with just over 100 employees, we can do a lot more and move a lot quicker. And each of our customers really matter for us. I know everyone. So I think that's what makes us different. But I honestly don't see us having that much competition on the market, even though the market's crowded. There's not a lot of companies that can do what we can.
You mentioned earlier that one of the reasons you learned about small teams was the fact that you were doing a lot of work for smaller startups, bootstrap kind of organization. Is that still a target market? Is that still a growing market for you?
Yeah, and we also work with big organizations. Like we have Fortune 500 companies. Like, for example, ADP came to us and they want to go to 0 to 1 and take a product to market. And they realize that their way of building stuff that's very bloated, like public companies work with like a lot of people, they realized that wouldn't work. So they create a division called ADP Ventures And then they realized that bringing their people to the inside team also wouldn't work because they had a culture difference and they didn't understand how to take a product from 0 to 1. They understand how to maintain their big complex product. And so they came to us so you would help them take their product to market so that we would help these big companies act like a startup, even if they're not one. So there's like that kind of customer that we serve too. There's big companies, like sometimes big private equities, big public companies that they are trying to disrupt themselves. They're trying to take a new product to market. And the way that they act is just not like a startup would act. They just need too much resources to do anything. So those are also people that hire us on top of bootstrappers, like people that are on their second or third or fourth business. And now they're creating a software product.
Yeah, that the whole idea of, in essence, acting like a startup within a big firm, that's a really interesting concept. Is that something that you see a lot of, or is that something you see growing?
Definitely. Like a lot of the big companies, they have what they call a ventures department. I mean, like Google set up Google Ventures. Even Google had a hard time innovating and they had to set up Google Ventures, so there's Samsung Ventures. All those companies, big companies, are even like formal about set up a part of the organization that is going to try to act more nimble. And there's a lot of those being happening in formal way in a lot of other bigger companies too, where they're like have a small division task with moving quick and trying to solve a big problem. They still have the problem that they can always throw more money at the problem. And so like the limitations are kind of made up, but that still helps that they're trying to be more efficient,
So when you get involved with one of those, is the goal of the organization to have not only to get a product, but also to teach their employees to act the same way as, the DevSquad representatives? Or
Yes.
Are you doing that Vulcan mind meld along the way?
No, that's definitely a part of our big value proposition. Is like, we're not going to only build your product, but we're going to do a knowledge transfer and we're going to teach you how to run a high-performing development team. And we're going to do it for you with our consulting firm. And we actually have our own products called DevStats that help them also look at their engineer team the same way that we look at our engineer team, where we look at things like flow, performance, developers' well-being. So basically, we're teaching them how we do it. On average, company's going to stay with us like 18 months to 24 months, and then they're going to transfer to their team, and then hopefully their team is going to be able to act like we do, and they're going to have a benchmark. This is the DevSquad team, and we want our team to be just as good in this specific scenario. Again, I'm not saying that we are very good at every single scenario. There's a scenario that if you put the DevSquad team, we're going to always win. And I learned by now that I'm going to only put my team to play when we're going to win.
That's fair. That's fair. And obviously, you can't take the product to market for them. You can't go out and sell it for them. So they can still fumble the ball, to use that sort of that sort of football, U.S. football metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that's an interesting approach. Not only are you building a product, but you're actually doing sort of transformation consulting in organizations.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's what makes us a consulting firm and not just like hiring guns. And what I like to say, it's like when people hire us, they don't hire us to tell us what to do. They hire us so we can tell them what to do. That's what differentiates a consulting firm from just hiring guns.
As we wrap up, why don't you introduce the listeners of the Software Process and Measurement Cast to your podcast? And then I actually have a podcasting question for you.
Oh, sure. So because I see so many times people making the mistake of trying to copy a company like how they're doing today. Like, I want to be the next Netflix. What does Netflix does today? I want to do the same. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. So, and there's not a lot of information out there about SaaS origin stories. And so that's why I decided to start a podcast where I interview SaaS founders about their early days and how it was when they started and the trade-offs they made to be able to launch their product. And hopefully people that are starting their SaaS or even founders that are already building their SaaS can get inspired because they might having the same challenge that those people had in their early days. And so that's what all the show is about. It's about me interviewing founders about their origin story.
So in the middle of the night, you wake up and has it occurred to you that there's a central theme that you've heard from all of these founders?
Yes. The most successful ones, they're industry experts. So they understand their industry. They're trying to build a product very well. And they're not doing it for their first time. And they're also over 40. so those are like the people that are more successful.
Just because I agree with you, trying to do the same thing as Netflix does is crazy. But why would that be true? Just so that the listeners can hear it from someone that actually knows it. Why would we not want to just create another app, another product, another something that somebody else is already doing?
Yeah, I think the big thing when you're trying to copy a big company, you don't have all the resources they have. So if you're trying to act exactly how they're acting, you're gonna always lose. I really like the example of David and Goliath. The only reason why David won is because he changed the rules of the game. If you would play at the same rules as Goliath, you'd always lose. So if you want to compete against a big company or enter the market a big company is entering already has, you have to change the rules of the games. You can play by the rules because by the rules, you're going to always lose. Like had David show up to fight Goliath with like the big army over his body and try to fight him in the same, he would always lose. And I think when big companies promote best practices, it's a lot of a strategy around, here, come play my games by my rules because you're going to always lose. So that's how I believe it should be.
I 100% agree. And it isn't just me saying that, it's Phil saying that. And he's been there. Phil, you wake up tomorrow morning, somebody hands you your caffeinated beverage of choice and a magic wand and says that you have the power to change any two things about bringing a product to market in the SaaS environment. What would they be and why?
Okay, so two things. I think I would change this mentality that every single SaaS has to be a huge unicorn. You can build successful companies that are not huge unicorns. Like a SaaS that make $10 million in revenue would be a completely failure for a VC. But if you were able to bootstrap the founder, the SaaS yourself, you're going to be in a very, very good position. And the second thing, it is this need that we have to overcomplicate and to always be going after the newest shine object. We have to simplify and we have to stop thinking we are those big innovators because we are not. That's my view.
If people wanted to continue the conversation, where would they find out about you? How could they continue the conversation?
So I guess they could go to my website, philalves.com, PHILALVES.com, sign up for my newsletter. There, they're also going to see the link for my podcast and the link to my two companies, my consulting firm and my own SaaS product. It's going to be out there.
Super. And at this point, you have provided the listeners with a ton of information. I open up the platform for you to promote anything that you like. Now, I've been at this 17 years. They're all still out there. Selling your car on eBay is probably not the thing you want to promote.
If you are running a development team and you want to help your development team be high performing, I'll invite you to check DevStats.com. It's my own SaaS product I took to market just early this year. And it's about helping you track your development team like in a more holistic approach from developer well-being to flow to activities. It's following the SPACE framework. Was a research done by Microsoft. Anyways, I'm super excited about building this SaaS product. And if it's a free trial, you don't have to put your credit card. I'll invite people to go test it out.
Super. I'll have that link in the show notes. That sounds like, it actually sounds like fun. Phil Alves, this has been absolutely fantastic. I've had a great time. I hope we do it again. And as people try out DevStats, maybe we can talk about how do you measure all of that good stuff.
Yeah, that would be great for sure.
In Reread Saturday News, In Chapter 5 of Made to Stick, Why Some Ideas Survive and Others Die, we find that an analytical approach reduces people's ability to be emotionally connected to an idea or concept. Without an emotional connection, they are far less apt to act. Calls to action that are emotionally engaging will generate action. Link in the show notes to this week's installment of Reread Saturday and the previous installments of our reread of Made to Stick. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast 769, we return to our summer theme of critical thinking. My daughter pointed out a model for levels of research. The model provides an interesting filter to help understand the types of research we use and the power each delivers. We'll also have a visit from 𝒂𝒅𝒄𝒐𝒎. Case brings her wit, empathy, and wisdom as a Scrum Master in a complex environment to the podcast. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?